Alright everyone, I'm sure if you're subscribed to my channel you're tired of these Final Fantasy 5 runs. I do more than just play Final Fantasy 5. I promise. So, while this cutscene runs its course, let me explain something. So I just got through playing through a 4-job Fiesta run of Final Fantasy 5 that was a no 750 run, which means no magic type users. It's very similar to my physical type only Final Fantasy Tactics run in concept. I had never done anything like that in Final Fantasy 5 until last week before. So that was an interesting experiment, but as I was playing, I learned a lot about the game that I hadn't expected to. So originally I was going to try to do a 750 run, which is just magic types. But I think magic types are broken in this game. It would be very difficult to get an assembly of magic types that would just suck, I think. Knock on wood. So, the thought crossed my mind to try to do this with a natural type challenge on top. So instead of just having 4 classes that you can kind of mix and match between abilities and all that between the 4, you would have 1 class assigned per crystal. So every time I get to a crystal, I will reach out to the algorithm and get a random physical type class assigned to me. And I cannot switch, so we cannot mix and match abilities, cannot change jobs at any time. So that should be exciting. Off gate, I got Thief, which early game is not that helpful. Maybe the first couple of hours, not the most helpful. But once you get to the fire-powered steamship, the ability to steal the god supply of ethers and high potions becomes very helpful, because you can sell that for fat loads of cash, and we'll never need ethers for anything. So that could be promising. Also, it's not like a regular run where if you open, let's say you get the first crystal, you have to make everybody that thing. Right, so let's say like I have Thief assigned to me. Normally, if I got Thief, I would have to make everybody Thief until I got to the next crystal, and then I could kind of mix and match. In this case, I would have a Thief plus 3 freelancers, which can equip anything they want, but they can't cast any spells or use any abilities. At least from the beginning. You can mix and match later in the game if you wanted to be a freelancer, but at the beginning, since they don't have any history in a particular job, they're not going to have access to that. I don't know what I'm going to do with the color scheme for this. From my menu, you know, it's like the most important part of playing this game. And I'll explain more too why I keep playing through this. I could be doing anything else with my time. I've now found like bits and pieces. You know, like if you ever watch speedruns of these classic type games, you'll notice there's parts where commentary is easily inserted in certain places. Just like the first 3 minutes of the game. So earlier we were not 750. God, that's ugly. That is absolutely hideous. I'm going to hate it. But see, I don't read the text anyway. The only thing I read is... Wait, no. Uh, the only thing I read is the battle text, for the most part. So, I reserve the right to reverse when I'm being a bit of an idiot. Config. Yeah, speaking of battle messages. God, that's so hard to read. How many characters? Call me no fitty. Also, I apologize for having to clear my throat a lot. I just got through eating some pizza. And I live in a certain kind of denial about my acid reflux. It's a true story. I live not in the country, okay? I'm less than 10 minutes away from, let's say, a store. Okay, it's not that country. But country enough to where there's a bunch of farmland, or what used to be farmland. And our house sits in between what used to be a bunch of farms. And there's a lot of ants in this area, and they like to come in my house and around our house at all sorts of times. No matter how many times recently I have put, because I have the food delivered to my house. I didn't go and get this pizza. I put a note that explicitly says, put the pizza on my car. I will go out and get it later. Because I know that if you put it on the ground, the ants will pick it up and take it wherever they want to take it. Tell me why this joker shows up at my front door. Let me explain. I also said, do not put on my front porch. I put asterisk before and after. Do not put on my front porch. Call or text me if you have questions. And joker shows up and proceeds to ring my doorbell several times. Now, one of the reasons that I put that instruction in there is so that I am not bothered. Sometimes at night I am sleeping right before a shift because I work third shift. Sometimes if I'm awake, it means it's work related and I cannot be bothered. Like, I really cannot be distracted. So I do not want the doorbell being rang. So not only did they go to my front porch, they rang the doorbell. And then when I didn't answer, they then left the pizza on the front porch. So when I finally got to the front door, they were about to drive away. They then call my phone, which is not in my hand. And I finally get back to my phone. They send me a text message saying, I left your pizza on the front porch. So I'm really not sure at this point whether it's the pizza or the delivery person that gave me the indigestion, or maybe a combination of the two. That was a long wind up for that pitch. I apologize, but if you've ever watched any of my streams before, or even if you're new, let me just tell you, I am very allergic to ant bites. Which it doesn't seem to be like always. Sometimes I get bit, there's no problem. Sometimes I get bit and I swell up really bad and like end up having to take like drugs to get the swelling down. Like it gets bad. Not anaphylactic, I don't have to go to the hospital, but sometimes I feel like that might have to be an option, So for it to be that serious, I should not be exposed to ants at all, whether it's in my house, out of my house, on my food, in my food. It's not appropriate. It's not where the party is at. And what's funny is they live dormant, like under the house. But they can sense with spectacular accuracy if I drop even so much as a sunflower seed on the ground. Yesterday I had that problem where I actually had to spend some time vacuuming my room because I had accidentally dropped a sunflower seed on the ground, and it had attracted the attention of the hive. It doesn't matter. Usually I switch the knife and the broadsword just because of her high speed. Well, maybe I should, I don't know. So at this point, in the last month or so, I've put a lot of time into playing this game. This is my third playthrough for Job Fiesta. I played through it once right before that as a Black Mages only challenge, which was broken. And each run takes about, depending on how you play, 20 to 30 hours. Now, if I stopped to read all the text, that would be different. But just blazing through like this, and occasionally rewinding through mistakes. Anyway, the reason I say that is that in the past 2 months, I will have put in approximately 100 hours, into playing this game. In perspective, that is wild to me. So I've found myself, without necessarily attempting to become an expert in this game per se, I have found myself reaching a level of, let's say, adeptness. I don't want to say expertise. But like I said, I've been able to identify, all right, this is going to be a point where I grind, or this is going to be a point where there's a lot of dialogue. And I've actually been, some of that time I'll actually just stop commenting and I'll listen to a podcast or something instead. So I'm sort of enriching myself as we go. So the first crystal part of this game is about 45 minutes to an hour. But yeah, thieves don't have a strong purpose this early in the game. I mean, we can steal potions, but nothing that exciting. It's also made me wonder too about like a Final Fantasy VII run without using magic and where you draw the line on that. Whether it's just green materia, which would make the game challenging enough, or if it would be all magic type materia, but it would allow you to use like command abilities like steel, or no materia at all, which would just, I feel like you'd be leaning on Aerith a lot. I'm not talking about the original Final Fantasy VII. I've never played the remake, but that would be very interesting, especially at the beginning, to play without using green materia. You'd be leaning a lot on like grenades as well as potions. So there's some cutscenes that we're skipping out on. Not needed. Okay. So this isn't just for the experience, it's also for the possible drops. So we have a chance to rare drop of Elixir for the Mold Winds. We also have a rare drop of leather shoes for the Goblins. This formation is nice because it gives us like a 12% chance of an Elixir drop. Five is more than enough to beat this boss. Just like that. I don't know if I've ever fought him at level 6. It probably would have been better to do this grinding with the thief assigned, but it doesn't matter. This one I'm surprised we haven't gotten a single. That's okay. It should be a 3-round sweep, if not 2. The cool thing about freelance is that they can equip anything. Though in this case, we'd have to stay away from rods. This reminds me, I'm gonna have to go back through and work out some copyright claims on my videos. Not that these are monetized at all. But in the event that they ever would be, having all these copyright strikes not really helpful. This track, which is now it's the prelude, is now known as the Final Fantasy theme. That's not. Final Fantasy did have a theme, and it wasn't this. But that's neither here nor there. I'm going after. Oh. So because of how the system is set up in the GBA version, dash is already built in, so you don't need a thief for dash like you would in the original. But because thief comes with the dash option, if you have a thief in your party and you hit the dash button, you will run twice as fast. So it does make grinding a little faster. So there's going to be a lot of that. Just stealing off gate. If I recall correctly, potions cost
50 gil. So every time I steal one, I'm saving 50 gil basically. But at a certain point, it's almost faster, more efficient just to fight the enemies than to try to steal. I mean, you're trying to calculating a loss of seconds here. I don't play this as a speed run, but I try to be somewhat efficient with my time. I want to say level 7 is where you want to be when you're fighting Siren. So we're already kind of ahead of the game there. We did all that without getting a single elixir. So for those that don't know what a 4-job fiesta is, the purpose of this is to give Final Fantasy V fanatics an opportunity to take on some challenges in playing this game, because it can be quite easy or broken depending on how you play it. But in the process, raise money for certain causes. Now, over the years, they've had various causes they supported, but they've become highly politicized recently. So right now, their current fundraiser is for Planned Parenthood of America. This is a response to the Supreme Court decision that overturned Roe versus Wade, which had essentially taken the power away from the states to decide when and if abortion should be legal, and created a national standard for that. So when that got returned back to the states, it raised questions as to who is going to be able to get abortions and how and all this. Now, Planned Parenthood does not only provide medically induced miscarriages, we'll say, but they also have a bunch of other what's the word? Pregnancy related services, like prenatal health and this sort of thing. Like they do a whole bunch of things that have nothing to do specifically with abortions. But it's the fact that they do, and that's always been a point of controversy about Planned Parenthood receiving federal funding and all this. So the notion of supporting Planned Parenthood financially was a bit questionable to me, just because of the knee-jerk reaction of like, is there not a better way to use our funds? Aside from this heavily politicized way, right? So in my previous runs, typically I will support at $20 per run, depending on the challenge. So I did 2 runs, one earlier this year, where I did not support anything because I really didn't know exactly where to put my funds. It wasn't a fundraising goal. It was to try to get people to play another game on Steam, and I wasn't about to buy a game that I wasn't going to play. It just seemed kind of ridiculous. Anyway, so between that run and the first run, I donated $1 to the developer of the sound software that allows you to hear my voice and the game music at the same time on this PC. It links them together. So I became a monthly subscriber to their services, which you can have for free, but I elected to have $1 taken out every month, which is not a lot. So assuming that goes out for a year, that's technically a $12 donation. I did donate $1 to Planned Parenthood, partly out of pettiness, but partly out of respect for the fundraiser itself. I'm not trying to do my own thing entirely here, but in my own view, we got to do better than that. Anyway, and I also donated $27 to the Cherokee Nation, earmarked for language preservation. I am some percentage Cherokee. Much like Elizabeth Warren and her understanding of her heritage. Whether she's a charlatan or not is a matter of debate. But I find myself in a similar position as her, in that I have made public statements about being Cherokee in the past, but have my doubts as to exactly what percentage Cherokee I am, number one. Number two, I am not engaged in the culture of Cherokee people like that. I'm not sure I know 100 Cherokee words, and even if I could, I wouldn't string them together in a coherent sentence. But I do find it interesting, and again, I've talked about that plenty in other streams. But right now, I've been making my way through a book called Trail of Tears: The Rise and Fall of the Cherokee Nation by John Ely, and it's been eye-opening for me in a lot of ways, because I find myself almost reconnecting with my own roots, and at the same time also dissociating myself from them, realizing like, okay, well, maybe I'm not as in this as I thought I was. It's not really been like the soul-crushing kind of experience you would probably think it would be. But I mean, I guess you could attribute it, the sensation is a little. It's a little different, but it's similar to what you would expect. It's similar to what you would expect if, you grew up in a certain kind of home, like a religious home. You thought of yourself as, let's say, Christian. but then you actually picked up, but you only knew yourself as a Christian socially. It was so then you pick up a Bible and you read it and you go, oh wow, okay, this is not me. This is not me at all. But at the same time, there's part of it like that really resonates with you in a way that probably doesn't resonate with other people. So that it's almost like a sense of your identity is emboldened by reading it, but at the same time, you're reaching a point of like understanding, I don't know, where you just kind of accept that this is not a part of you in the way that you thought that it was. I follow a rabbi on YouTube whose sole mission it is in life to find Christians, to find Jews that converted to Christianity and deconvert them by simply presenting them with the Old Testament and like just pretend the New Testament doesn't exist for a moment. Nothing you ever heard about Jesus, nothing, none of that. Read it from beginning to end, from end to beginning, back and forth. Really study it, really understand it. Memorize these texts. What do these words say? What do they mean? What are our expectations? And now put the New Testament back on the table, and what do you think? What do you believe? Can you believe that the Old Testament is true and that the New Testament is true in that sense of the word? So in other words, if you were to take the same like literal translation concerns of, let's say, the evangelical Christian world, right? Everything in the Bible was taken literally and seriously, absolutely, totally true, right? That if you genuinely think like that and you take that same attitude towards the Old Testament and you pretend that the New Testament doesn't exist, when you go and you read the New Testament, there are parts of it that are so categorically un-Jewish. Like they don't mesh at all. Either they misquote scripture, or they misrepresent Jewish ideals and that sort of thing. Like, it's not a hard case to make. Give me 1 second. And that's not to attempt to arrest anyone's Christian faith, by the way. If you're a Christian, this is not a criticism of you or your faith for that matter. The reason I bring this up is that at a certain point, if you understand the Jewish tradition, like really and truly understood it, and then you try to introduce Christianity to the mix as you find it in the New Testament or in the traditions of the early church fathers and that sort of thing, you would reject it out of hand. So the other side of it, though, is that, like in my case, having actually studied the Bible, both the New and the Old Testament, and I've listened to scholars on many, many sides of the same set of concerns. I've come to believe that the New Testament was written in a way that if you allow yourself to see it, there is a depth and a beauty to it that I think dignifies the Jewish faith in a lot of ways. But to disregard outright the fact that it seems to have no direct relationship to the Jewish faith in other areas, right? It's just disingenuous. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, as I go through this book, I recognize that there are parts of my way of life that are incompatible with the traditional Cherokee way. But at the same time, there are parts of my life that are, or could be understood as much more authentically Native or Cherokee than a lot of other, than I probably would have thought before. So it's validating from that extent. I feel seen in some ways. The other part of it too is that I've come to really separate myself from this idea that the American dream has always been like this, clean, peaceful expansion of self-realization. It's just, and it's not. From the beginning of this book to where I'm at now, I'm on page 240 of 399. So I'm about halfway through this book when Andrew Jackson becomes president of the United States. And it's under President Jackson that the removal of the Indian people from the eastern side of the United States to the central or western part of the United States becomes official and motivated, activated. There have been efforts before that to move them out there, but none with the federal authority. And so it's basically the history of the individuals involved in that movement from the time they were youth till the present day. I guess that's as you read it. So in many ways, how should I say? It reveals the messiness of it all, where the natives were, acting in an immoral way or dishonest way, where the Americans were acting in a dishonest way. Everybody was killing everybody. When I say everybody was killing everybody, stealing, it was just an ugly place. And so you just make this assumption that, that aside from the fact that we had slavery in the United States and we had to fight a war over it, that everything was just fine. And that everything had like a clear moral value to it. And that's just not true. And it was complicated and it was sloppy on everybody's side. And you have to keep in mind that the Cherokee were not fluent in English. So some of these agreements they went in, or not even just English, but just Western culture. Like some wanted to get deep in it, and some wanted to retain their traditional values. I don't know. So I'm learning a lot about myself. I'm learning a lot about American history. It's been enlightening. But I've also, again, I've been studying, Jewish and early Christian history, and that's been an interesting revelation as well, because you think that there's like this monolithic block of thought, like, okay, Jesus was born, he lived, he died, he rose again, and there started a religion, and then that became the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church split off about 1,500 years later, and now we just have this diverse mess of churches and beliefs, and right, that's kind of how it's sold to us. But it turns out, even before, during, and after Jesus' life, it was a whole mess. And you had the Roman Empire and its political systems and machinery and its religious values, and then you have the values of the Greeks that they took over, and then you have the academics of Alexandria and Egypt, all competing for control of everyone's body, mind, and soul, and just what comes out of it is what we understand of, generally speaking, as the Catholic Church. But it was a whole mess before that. So much so that even as of today, we can't even tell you who wrote the books of the Bible and when, and what their point of reference was. Like, I literally was a part of a discussion. Granted, I was a witness to it, but I got to ask a question amongst some scholars, and I asked them because some of them were suggesting that the Apostle Paul wrote his letters late, like beyond the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem, which happened in AD 70. But most scholars will say that that Paul wrote his letters in the 50s and 60s, before the fall of the Temple. He also makes reference to the fact that he was associated with the early apostles. But if he wasn't associated with the early apostles, then that would mean that these are forgeries of a certain kind. But if he was associated with them, that would also mean that he wrote these letters 20, 30 years after he had that association. When we normally read that, we normally think that he's talking about something that happened recently. This is getting on my nerves. I didn't expect this battle to last this long. I wonder if she can die. Really? Anyway, when you divorce yourself from this idea that everything was a God, it's obnoxious. It was like a clean, cut and dry kind of situation. Whether it's American history or religious history. And so for those of you that are not kind of clued into that debate, let me explain why it matters when some of these letters or books would have been written and then made a part of the biblical canon. So in Jewish prophecy, it's very important to know when or if the temple that was in Jerusalem was going to be destroyed. And if it was, when and for what reason. Because for many Jews and for many Christians, this kind of starts a series of events to fulfill various prophecies. No, that's irrelevant. So if Paul is writing before the fall of the temple, it makes sense for him to be saying what he's saying, right? Because again, he's assuming there is a church in Jerusalem that's, that has not been attacked by the Roman army yet. But if he's writing after the fall of Jerusalem, then whenever he mentions the church in Jerusalem that he's talking about, a group of people that somehow either survived or after the attack on Jerusalem in 70 AD, that they went back in and rooted in. And it has a subtle but serious impact on how we think about the early Christian movement, and its relationship to Jerusalem and the temple itself. Did they participate in temple worship? The writings in the book of Acts about how Paul was in Jerusalem at some point, the relationship to the temple as it was understood in the time of Jesus versus in the time of Paul. Was it or was it not destroyed? And why would he be talking about it in the way that he does? It's a waste of money, but So anyway, all that rambling stemmed from me stating that I contribute to the Cherokee Nation for their language program. So that was a priority of mine that I decided to support, especially in light of conversations about abortion. I think it's interesting to consider the kind of genocide that we supported as a nation, and basically cultural erasure, there you go, that's the right word, of many of the Native American tribes, but especially the Cherokee because of how advanced they were. I've never missed so many times trying to attack a Gaelic cat. So that's where that came from. And then the most recent run, let's see, what did I donate to? Oh, so there's an organization where I live. It's what they refer to as a crisis pregnancy center. They basically provide quote-unquote faith-based services for expectant mothers, people interested. It's in a certain sense family planning, but without the abortion type services. Wow, got the rare steel. The name of the organization is Hand of Hope. So that's where my money has been going. And it's recently kind of opened up my mind a bit to what it means to be given these organizations through playing these games. Because a lot of these streams that I do is because I'm a workaholic, and it keeps me honest about what I'm doing with my spare time. could think of it as like the least offensive of my addictions, maybe. But that's not the point. Each of these games takes between 20 and 25 hours, and I'm donating $20 every time I complete it. And it's basically $1 an hour. If I was making money doing this, let's say I was making $10 an hour doing this, which is a lot, all things considered, but just work with me on this. That would be like me giving up approximately 10% of my income for this purpose. Which is not really a bad thing. But of course, it has me thinking about the concept of a tithe, which is supposed to be you give 10% of, it's not just your income, but what your land produces. I don't remember this fight being that difficult. Alright, give me 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, I have returned. Because many times as I've played through this game, I've never caught the association of her being hit by a poison arrow happening right before she poisons herself on purpose. Is it possible for us to kill her before she brings up Forza? I think this is it. No. What in the world? I wonder why she keeps attacking him.
But to the point I was trying to make earlier, I don't know what I'm going to contribute to this time around. But this has put me in a mindset where I'm constantly having to think, okay, what is a worthy cause, and what is an organization that's worthy of supporting in light of that? Not just relying on the direction of whoever's running this project.
This might be a good place to pause, actually. I do need to get some potions, I think. Even though I have been stealing some, I haven't been stealing a lot. I'm at 40, okay. Not bad so far, in terms of timing. I really thought we would have had more elixirs by now. But that's alright. If we need to grind for more, we can grind for more. There's time left in the day. In any event, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching. I hope you're well, and I look forward to the next one.